Hello everyone, welcome to a math instructional video learning about exponents and exponent properties. In this video, we're going to be working with powers of negative exponents and understanding how to be careful using our definition of what an exponent is, being careful to calculate negative exponents correctly. So I've got 5 different calculations we're going to go through and talk about. You'll notice they all involve -4. 4 of them involve parentheses. You may say, hey John, why does the second one not have any parentheses? We're going to get to that. But then we have different powers. Some of them are even numbers, 2s, then some of them are odd numbers. And it's going to help us understand exponents, negative numbers a little bit more deeply. All right, we're going to go through each of these in expanded form and think about what the result is going to be. Let's start with -4 to the second power. So we know writing an exponent is just repeated multiplication. So when I have this -4 here, that's my base number. I'm taking it to the power of 2. So I have 2 -4s all multiplied to each other. This 2 is being applied to all that -4. So I could rewrite this as -4 times -4. There's -4 squared. That's what that means. And then if I simplify it out, well, -4 times -4, 2 negative numbers multiply to make a positive number, and so the result is going to be positive 16. So there we go. Squaring a negative number ended up making it a positive number by the fact that a negative times a negative is a positive. But now let's see what is different between that first example and this one. So this gets into a little bit of order of operations. This is -4 squared, whereas up here I had -4 squared. Could you tell the difference in the way I paused using the words? So order of operations here, exponents come before multiplication. That negative is considered on the level of multiplication, especially if you use your calculator. If I just go into my calculator and if I do type in negative, and then type in 4, and then exponent and square it, my calculator is going to come back and tell me, well, that's a -16. And here's why, because your calculator is viewing this as 4 squared first, so it's negative whatever 4 squared is. Exponents come before multiplication, so it's going to take your 4 and square it. So that turns into -4 times 4. Then it's going to do that in parentheses because it's negative all of that. So it's going to do 4 times 4 to get 16. And then it's going to apply the negative to make it -16. So when working with exponents, when working with negative numbers in exponents, be very careful that if you want to take the power of the whole exponent, use the parentheses just like we did up here with this -4. Then your calculator will understand, oh, you want to square the negative and the 4, and then it'll treat it like this first example. I can't tell you how many times when we start a unit on exponents, students come to me and they say, hey, I typed in my calculator's telling me the wrong answer. What's going on? And they're just not using parentheses the right way. So hopefully that's clear for you guys. Let's take a look at some other examples with some negative exponents. Here we got -4 to the third power. Well, that's just 3 -4s all multiplied together. So let's write that out in expanded form. -4 times -4 times -4. Well, here I have a negative times a negative makes a positive, but then I have another negative, which is going to end up making the whole thing negative. So if you have an odd number of negatives multiplying each other, the result is negative. Then 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So we end up with a negative result, -64, when I take -4 to the third power. Let's take -4 to the fourth power. So I got -4 times -4. There's 4 of them. That's what that little exponent of 4 means. So I'm going to write it all out in expanded form. And what do we got here now? So 4 to the fourth power is 256. Now the question is it positive or is it negative? Well, I've got 2 negatives multiplied together to make a positive, and I've got another 2 negatives multiplied to make a positive. So the end result is it's positive 256. I think you're probably catching the pattern, but let's do one more here. The last one is negative 4 times negative 4. I'm going to write it without the multiplication symbol this time, but still in expanded form. And we got 5 negative 4s all multiplying each other. 4 to the 5th power is 1024. I used my calculator to do that one. And is it positive or is it negative? Well, again, we're looking for pairs of negatives. So there's one pair that turns positive. There's another pair that turns positive, but I have one left over that's going to make the whole thing a negative number. So long story short, if you're using your parentheses correctly, an even powered exponent of a negative number is going to turn into a positive number. So negative 4 to the 4th and negative 4 squared both were positive. But if you have a negative number with an odd number exponent, the result is going to be a negative number. But finally, just make sure you're using your parentheses correctly, because the order of operations and the way your calculator is interpreting things may mess you up if you're not putting things in correctly. All right, hopefully that's a helpful video for you understanding negative numbers and taking exponents of negative numbers.